Welcome to the Insurance Producers Podcast, where we bring you the top personalized producers, insurance agents, and industry partners, giving you at least 3 takeaways to 10x your production and build your multi-million-dollar revenue books. So sit back, relax, and become inspired by the success stories and strategies of the world's top insurance minds. Let's roll. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Cyrus Jaffery, your host. Welcome to Insurance Producers Podcast. Man, we got a special guest today, Tim Harlin, CEO, Comma Insurance. What's happening, Tim?
I'm doing great. How about you, Cyrus?
I am doing great. So Tim and I had a conversation about a week or two ago. Our first time meeting each other, man. I had such a good time having a conversation with him and talking about some topics on what's going on in the insurance industry, and man, his expertise and everything. I wanted to invite him on the podcast, and I think you guys are going to have a great time with Tim. So Tim, if you don't mind, really quick, man, just give us a 30-second, how you got into the insurance industry and what you're doing right now.
Yeah, sure. So I've been in the industry just over 10 years now. Previously was in the accounting industry and decided I wanted a little more excitement in my life. So I'll join a boring old insurance industry. But I made the transition from accounting into selling insurance, and it's been a dream. It's been really, really great decade of challenge and reward. And I really, really like getting to help people through the avenue of insurance.
That's awesome. So you're in Oklahoma, Midwest, and you have an agency right now. The agency has been around with some partners in the beginning, and obviously you guys have grown exponentially from our conversations. And are you more personalized, commercial? What's that look like in your agency?
Yeah, that's a great question. So today we're about 98% personal lines, down from 100% last year. So we actually recently launched a commercial effort within the last 12 months. It's been going really well, honestly. We're super excited about the future there and have enjoyed the challenges that it's brought so far. And we've had the opportunity to work with some really great clients already.
That's awesome. So you were 98% personalized and then 2% commercial. And there's a lot of agents and a lot of producers listening to this. They have made the same switch as what not that you're switching from personalized to commercial, but you're saying, hey, let's give it a little bit of both, right? Because I feel like with what's happening on the personalized side, maybe the commercial could help offset some of that stuff. So I guess, what are some things that you had some trouble with? What are some things you're having success, or maybe 1 or 2 things that other people could take from your experience if they want to do the same thing that you're doing?
Yeah. So I've always held the belief that you don't try to do everything for everyone. You need to know your lane and stay in it. And so that's the main reason why we focus so long on personal lines only. We were very good at it. We consider ourselves best in class. And because of our level of focus, we were able to perform at a very high level for our clients. So for us, it was important to have the right pieces in place to be able to also move into that new channel or the new line of business with an ability to be excellent. And so coming into the insurance industry as a scratch agency 10 years ago without any experience on either personal lines or commercial, obviously building a bunch of experience on the personal lines side, we wanted to have some people in place on the team who brought some depth of experience on commercial lines before we just started offering to our customers. And so for us, it was a really decision around talent more than anything else.
Okay. So if you had to pick, if somebody's tomorrow is saying, hey, I want to focus more on the commercial side, I don't see the personal lines changing anytime soon, what would be your top thing for them? Would you be like, go find somebody that knows personal lines, or do you think they have to maybe take a class or spend some time on the commercial reps? Or I guess it'd be tough to get some of those commercial carriers right now, right? Like, what would be the first thing they should be doing, you think?
So interestingly, I think the carrier access may be the least of your worries today. It actually seems, from my view at least, that generally speaking, the commercial lines market has not been as hard as the personal lines market the last 24 months. And so I think gaining access to markets is probably the least of your worries. I think making sure you're educated and not misguiding your clients is the biggest concern. And so as you step into that new space, knowing what sort of coverages you need to be able to recommend to those clients and then where to go get those coverages is key. Because honestly, on the commercial line side, there's an ability to be more creative in terms of how you build
Hmm.
policies, build coverages, and also there tend to be more alternate avenues to be able to place coverage through, whether through it's a general agent or some brokerage agreement. On the personal line side, we tend to see that carriers typically do more business directly with their appointed agents and appointed agents only. And so we've actually found that the market has been really receptive um, to us as a newer commercial lines agency.
That's cool. So how many team members do you have just focusing on the personalized side and commercial side? And did you do it to where like, okay, you could do half and half, or you was like, hey, you're commercial, you're personalized. There's no like in between.
So right now we're really early stage commercial lines. So we
Okay.
have two of our licensed agents that are also offering commercial lines in addition to the personal lines offering. We aren't going out and saying, "Hey, everyone at our shop can now sell both lines," because we do believe there's a
Mhm.
level of expertise. So one of those is a multi-year experienced veteran on the commercial lines side, and then the other one is a little bit more of a younger insurance talent, not necessarily by age, but by experience on the commercial side. We're actually bringing her into that pretty early. She's shown a ton of potential. We're super excited to have her begin adding that to her offering.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. And then, if you don't mind sharing really quick, how big is the team and what's that structure like? I know you're the CEO. Is there a COO? And how does that look like as far as like the leadership side and all that stuff in the agency and common in general?
Our goal has always been to stay as flat as possible. Obviously, as you grow, that becomes more challenging. We don't have any sort of COO or anything like that that sits between me and the rest of the team. I have a bunch of folks from a bunch of different areas at the company reporting directly to me, and at our size, that's main. It's been possible for us to do that. At some point, that will probably change, but we have specialists who are kind of area owners on the aspects of HR, accounting,
Mm,
data, our IT and infrastructure. Um, we do have a senior level person on the what we would call like the insurance operations,
mm.
assisting with everything from like carrier relationships and licensing to onboarding of our licensed team members and those other types of really key behind the scenes roles in operating a great agency.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. What are some things that you're doing, Tim, today? I know it's the hard market, man. What are some things you're doing to get yourself ready to go for maybe the market opens up? And what is some recommendation to producers and agency owners right now that are just like, man, it's a little tough. Like, what are some things that you're doing and what would you recommend?
So number one, I focus a lot on what I call grittiness. And to
Mm,
me, in the insurance space, that's about just trying to go in and do the best job for your clients that you can every day. I tend to see a lot of folks in our industry that will pretty easily get in a rut where it's like, okay, every application I'm taking right now is going to Safeco, so that's where I'm going to go
mm,
first. And it's really easy in a hard market environment like this to maybe not exhaust all avenues because you get tired of it. It's like, well, they've been telling me
mm,
no for 3 months. Why should I keep taking them business?
mm,
And what I believe is that the as the industry turns, it's going to be slow. It's not going to be, hey, we wake up one day and it's going to be off to the races, but it's going to turn slowly. And so knowing where it's turning and which carriers are starting to make that round that corner and
uh,
come out into the straightaway is really critical. And the only way you can know that is by staying in touch with your carriers, by being diligent on the underwriting side, showing that grit,
mhm,
working for your clients really effectively each day. um, and also, I think the other thing I would just encourage folks to do out there is keep educating yourself and learning. I am spending far more time today than at any other point in my career trying to be well educated and thoughtful about how we interact with markets, how we serve our markets. And I think now is as good a time as any to be really focused on that. Sharpen your saw.
Yeah, that completely makes sense, man. You got plenty of time right now to be able to do some of those things. And so for agencies, you're a larger agency on the personal line side, obviously. And did you separate, like you got like a rewrite specialist now that's doing a lot of remarkets and stuff? Like what have you done to help with that and do the educating piece of it and all that stuff?
Yeah. So things change over time as you scale, obviously. But
Mm,
one of our values here at Comma is to be personal. And it's a bit of a generic word, but for us, we interpret that in a few different ways. Number one, we try to be personal with our team. That means we try to know each other. We try to do some fun things outside of work, at least occasionally together. We try to build a work environment where people can bring their whole self, even on the days when it's not so great, because we all have those days. Um,
yeah.
but we also think about how that word applies to being personal for our clients. And so, one of the things we have worked very hard to stay committed to is trying to allow our team as we scale to know our clients by first name and for them to know us by first name. And
Mm,
by first name, I don't mean my name. Most of our clients don't even know who I am, which is wonderful.
yeah.
I'd rather just be in the background, enabling our team to do great work. What that means practically is that for our clients who are living through this nightmare of insurance, skyrocketing rates, very limited eligibility and capacity, um,
Hmm.
is that we've tried to lean in with that. We try to keep a person on the team who is kind of the frontline responsible person for every single one of our individual clients out there. And then we try to cover, obviously, for those folks when they're out due to illness or maybe it's maternity leave or something like that. We do our best to cover, but our goal is to make insurance relational. And so even during this hard market, a lot of that remarketing and really very interactive and like gritty work that we do on behalf of our clients is done by their account manager, who is the same person
Mm.
who gets to do the fun stuff too. Like when things are going well and the renewal comes in great, they get to deliver the great news. They are also the ones working through the hard news with that client.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. So one of the things I wanted to ask you, man, and I think this is why probably you've done such a good job of not being in like the day to day of everything, right? Because as you get bigger and bigger, there are certain things that you must do on a daily basis, and taking a payment or answering a question for something small is not something you're doing. So, and I know there's a lot of agents that are in the grind of it. They're having a hard time, man, letting that go, right? Like, and and I want to go to the name on top of that. Like, so when people call me and just say, Cyrus, what would you recommend? I'm starting new. I'm like, do not do Jaffrey Insurance. Do not do your last name insurance. Like, trust me. Like, the biggest mistake I made in my agency was making my last name and then insurance. Was that like? I want your thoughts on that. Like, Jaffrey Insurance versus Common Insurance, completely different world. Like, it's easy for you to hide, not that you want to hide, right? But you want to empower other people to do things. Like, I want your like insight on that, man. I'm
Yeah.
curious.
So I hope to be humble enough to recognize when I've been lucky rather than skillful, and I think in
Mm.
this case I'll recognize some luck more than skill.
Okay.
However, what I will share is um, part of it I think is just my kind of personal wiring and background. Humility as a value is super important to me. And when I
Mm.
joined the industry, I didn't come from the captive side where that was typical to put your name on the sign.
Mm.
And so one of the statements that I think you could accuse me of making back in those days really early on was, okay, I'm going to leave my accounting job where I can literally like go in the back door and do what I need to do and then go out the back door, go home, which is very much my personality to like stay in the
Mm.
background. Um, one of the things I will never do is put my name and face on a billboard. That's just not me. That's not who I am. And so
Mm.
part of it was simply an outworking of being authentic. And for me, it would have been inauthentic to be the person on the sign. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. It just wasn't how I was wired. And for me to go out
Mm.
and do that would have been really not real. And I always want to live a life that's real. I want you to see the same Timothy in whatever environment you run into me, whether that's a fly on the
Mm.
wall at home with my family or interacting with colleagues or trying to court a new customer. I want to be really consistent. And so it was a little bit luck in that sense, but I have a funny, kind of ironic story to share that, um, when I got into the industry, it was largely because of a friend of mine who was a farmer's agent. And
Mm.
he was just super energetic and enthusiastic about insurance. And when you were around this guy, it was infectious, the energy he had.
Mhm.
And I finally just said, Brian, I want to know why you like what you do so much. Like, I want to do what you do just because of your energy. And full disclosure, I have since come to know Brian in a different capacity where that's just who he is. He would be energetic about something
Yeah.
he hated, probably just because that's his wiring.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, he told me about the business. I got into insurance kind of because of that conversation. And about 6 months after, maybe a year after I got into the business, he quit and sold his agency. I'm like, Brian, you left me hanging. Why did you leave? You sold me this and then you left. Like, is there something I don't know now that I need to know and get out of this business? And he said, um, the advice I would have is if you're starting an agency, never put your name on the sign, because what happens is you end up with all the
Mhm.
problems automatically getting escalated to you. And so it
Mhm.
was one of those things that I got a bit lucky, I think, at the front end, just trying to do something that was authentic. And then as time went on, I recognized, oh, wow, there's some real value in that. And so it has enabled me to stay in the background and allow our team to really step in, be there for our clients. We really work on empowering our team to always do the right thing. My door's always open if someone needs, to
Mhm.
escalate something or they need help. I am certainly not afraid to jump on the phone with an upset client and work through difficult issues with them. So it's not a matter of me hiding, but it has been really nice to let the team be at the front and let the relationships be one-on-one with our team members and clients as opposed to me and the clients.
Yeah, that's so important, man. That's honestly the best thing that you have ever done. And some agents that have asked me 3, 4 years ago, they were calling me, they left State Farm or whatever. Cyrus, what would you be big? I was like, do not put your last name on it. And they're like, man, I'm in a small town. I'm going to do it. Like, I really have to do it. And then 3 years later, they're like, Cyrus, I wish I would have listened to you. I'm like, I know, bro. I told you, like, just do it. Just listen to me. But dude, I love that whole thing. I know it was luck, but obviously, like, there's no way you could grow as fast as you've grown if you didn't caught on to the idea that, like, you got to empower these people to make decisions, because
Mm-hmm.
otherwise they'll knock on your door or walk into your door. Hey, I got this claim, what should I do? Hey, I got this, what should I do? Hey, I got a payment that didn't go through, what should I do? So, like, what is the day-to-day of Timothy look like then inside of your agency?
It's constantly changing. I will say that. I think anyone who wants stability and wants to just go in and do the same thing every day, don't ask for the role like I have at an agency that's growing, because
Mm-hmm.
I have to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I've been through various seasons. I've personally worn most of the hats for the various roles in our agency, whether that's taking out the trash, whether that's being the frontline account manager, whether that's being the producer, being the accountant. I've done a lot of the things, and that has given me kind of a unique ability, I hope, to appreciate our team and the contributions they
Mm-hmm.
have. And I try to make an effort to stay in touch with the front line. Like in the last 90 days, I've taken a couple of frontline phone shifts, literally just answering the phone. Hey, it's a great day here at Comma. How can we serve you today? And it's been fun to be able to do that and blend
Yeah.
in and just serve the team and go through the struggles and see the system limitations and the challenges that they have in their day to day. If there's one thing I wish I could do more of, it would be that. It is difficult sometimes to take a day and spend it in someone else's role without getting like overly entwined, entangled beyond that 1 day commitment. So for instance, let's say it's a complicated claim that I get involved in. As soon as I
Mm-hmm.
get involved with that client, it's hard sometimes to just be involved for that one little escalation piece. You end up sometimes relationally connecting and they like you. And then
Mm-hmm.
before you know it, that you kind of become their personal account manager. And so it's an ongoing effort to maintain that right balance. But most often, I learned several years ago that I had to give up producing directly because I was letting my clients down. And that's ultimately what
Mm-hmm.
turned the corner for me. What I found
Mm-hmm.
was as our team grew and I needed to spend more time managing and leading, it would get to the end of the day and I would recognize that I didn't have enough time to do everything. Someone got the short end of the stick, and unfortunately sometimes it was my client or
Mm-hmm.
prospect. And so I recognized that it wasn't fair for me to try to wear all those hats, and I had to be able to trust the team to take care of folks. And so even today, if my brother or sister calls in and needs a new insurance policy, they don't get to buy an insurance policy
Mm-hmm.
from me. And that's not
Mm-hmm.
because I don't care about them, but I can genuinely say it's because I'm not the best person on the team today at doing that. And I'm lucky to work
Mm-hmm.
with folks that are better at those roles than I am. But it takes time and it's really uncomfortable at first.
Yeah, sure is, man. I haven't written a policy in 4 years, and I miss it. There are times where I'm like, man, like, I want it like that, like the thrill that you get, from like closing a deal that
Oh,
like,
the bind down screen when you hit
oh,
submit and you're just about to get paid. There's nothing like it. It's like
there's
it's
nothing
like
like it.
heroin or something. I mean, you just like, oh my
Literally,
goodness, this feels amazing. There's gonna be a
literally.
check in the mail next month because I just hit go. That's a
Dude,
great feeling.
it's like a birdie. You don't get
Yes.
them a
Oh
lot in
yes.
golf. In golf, and then when you do, you
So
just want it more than anything in
I
the
used to
world.
schedule a lot of my new business for Friday afternoons because I could sit and just grind. A lot of clients didn't need me on a Friday afternoon because they're out golfing or
Uh-huh.
whatever, starting their weekend, and I could sit there and just like ding, 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 get all my policies issued, and you go home, you're like, I just bound $15,000 of business today. That felt so good.
That's awesome, man. I applaud you, man, for what you're doing, because when I found out, and this is something that I'm assuming, like we just learned that from other people, man. Like it's not like one of those things where you just wake up one day, you're like, oh, like I'm gonna do this, right? Like you listen to all these podcasts and other leaders that are doing these things, and then you follow their lead potentially, and then we just hoping to give this back to the industry for other
Hmm.
agents, because man, that's the number one biggest. When I talk to people in this podcast, when I talk to people in other places, one of the biggest things that they always talk to me about, like, man, I'm just in the grind of it. I just don't know if I can do it. I'm like, honestly, you'll never be able to do it if you don't tell yourself you're going to do it. You just have to one day just walk away, And Bradley Flowers, I don't know if you know him, Insurance Guys podcast. He's one of the podcasts. He goes, dude, one day just leave for like a month and then just like see what happens. Like they will figure it out. It's crazy how many things they'll figure out if you're not there.
It is. It is. We used to. It's before we had a really like definitive leadership team that could lead in my absence. Um, this is real talk. When I would be out of the office for a couple of days where I expected to not be available, I would have a like right before I left town, I would have a stand up all hands meeting. It was like 5 people back then or whatever. And I'd
Uh-huh.
say, hey, let's have an all hands meeting. So we'd stand around and we had our mission and values on the wall on two posters.
Mhm.
And I said basically, if for some reason you have to make a novel decision and you can't reach me and you think it's something I would typically weigh in on, I empower two or more of you to take that issue, stand in front of this wall, look at these values, and make the decision according to what you see and
Love
know these
that.
values to be. And I'm not going to have blowback on you for making that decision and doing the best you can according to our values for the client in my absence.
Mm.
And so that's been a commitment of mine, is to try to always relate our decisions and the way we care for our clients back to values. Are our values a match for every client out there? No, they aren't.
Mm.
But maybe 90% of our fellow, Americans in the markets we serve could say, yeah, I can identify with those values. Those are
Mhm.
fair, decent practices that I can identify with. My hope is that by us always operating consistently with those values, we're going to at least give each client an accurate experience that is aligned with who we say we are. Like I want them
Mhm.
to experience authentically who Kama really is. And are we going to be perfect? No. But part of our values are recognizing who we are, and when we're not the right fit, we can say it. We can say it out loud. Hey, Cyrus, I've been
Mhm.
through this road with you 3 times now. The claims never go right, and I don't know if we're the right solution. Maybe you do need
Mhm.
to go to Geico and like just directly handle the stuff on your own. I don't mind having
Mhm.
that conversation, and we want our team to also feel empowered to have those conversations when that's the way the circumstances fall.
Love that, man. That's probably the best thing that's going to come out of this podcast, I think. You did say, and you said, it's a great day at comma. How can I help you? Now, we have a saying in our office, like we answer the phone like nobody else, from what I know at least. We answer the phone, everybody in my office, and you can call our office, anybody, and you'll be able to get this. It says, uh, we're having a great day at Jaffery Insurance. How can I provide you exceptional customer service? And for a while, it was weird because people that was answering the phones, they're like, this is kind of cheesy. I said, where else will you go that will answer the phone like that? That will almost make it feel like what can I do to make your experience exceptional for the next 5 minutes that we're on a phone, versus you just somebody calling somebody like, Jeffrey Insurance, how can I help you? Like there's a lot different tone. There's a lot different things that when we answer the phone. So when you said that it's a great day at comma, how can I help you? Was that something that you guys planned on, wanted to do differently than other people? Was it just something that you guys do?
So to be honest, I bet if you call us, not everyone says it that way. And
Okay.
that's an admission that maybe we aren't as consistent as we could be.
Okay.
It's something I believe in. I, you know, there are a couple things that I like to tell, like when new producers join our team, there are a couple things that I like to tell them if they ask me for advice. And I already touched on one of them, so I guess three, but one of them was grit. Like sometimes you just got to be gritty. It's
Mm-hmm.
especially in the independent agent channel, it's harder than it is on the captive side because
Mm-hmm.
you have to exhaust multiple avenues sometimes. It's not like, hey, I'm going to go down this one path, and if this path is a dead end, it's a no-go, and I can let the client down. Hey, we can't help you. You have to go down many paths sometimes, and there's a process of elimination that requires grit and
Mm-hmm.
stick-to-itiveness. But the other two things I tell them are on the producer side is start being seen in the right circles with consistency. This
Mm-hmm.
idea of being seen. There's so many people who are in sales who are, for lack of a better term, flaky or flighty. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, you see them in some networking circles, but then you never see them again. It's like, where'd they go? I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if they're going to be so flaky on me or this group that we're part of. Why should I expect they'd be there when I have a claim? And
Mm-hmm.
so pick your circles wisely and be seen, invest, like be there with consistency. And eventually it builds a level of trust and relationship where people are like, well, that guy, Timothy, he always shows up. Of
Mm-hmm.
course I could recommend him to my buddy because he always shows up.
Mm-hmm.
So be seen. And then the other thing that I have always tried to do in my sales practice, and I encourage other people to do it, is ask one or more unique questions on a sales call. And by unique questions, what I mean is if they have already talked to two other insurance agents or they're about to call two other agents, which I would
Mm-hmm.
say if they call two other agents, you haven't done your job well. But if they've already talked to two and you're the third and they get off the call with you and they don't think, wow, that Timothy guy, he was different, then you've totally screwed yourself over. You're literally just
Mm-hmm.
a source of a price and they will choose you if you have the lowest number. Um, so I always looked for ways to ask a unique question that no one else was asking. And for me, I needed to make it variable. Otherwise it got too dry. It was like if I
Mm-hmm.
always asked, hey, what's the middle name of your dog? Which what dog
Yeah.
has a middle name, right? But it's just something to make you laugh and like it's different. Oh, he asked me my dog's middle name. Um, that would get boring for me over time. And so what I always want to do
Mm-hmm.
is like every week or so, I'd like, hey, what's my question that I'm going to ask all my clients that's going to make my conversation memorable? And so when I pick up the phone and my entire purpose with that call is to simply understand who to transfer to, I'm not actually planning to be the solution to their question. If I can pick it up in a way that's going to almost disarm them, like, oh, I don't remember the last time I
Mm-hmm.
called a business. They said it's a great day here at Comma. So
Mm-hmm.
that it's more just that's my personality style showing through in the way I conduct that duty. And if others
Wow.
adopt it, great. But I haven't prescribed it as a this is the Comma
Yeah.
way. We're going to always use this same phrase because we do like people to be personal. So maybe it's not a great day for Krista or Joey or Bobby on our team, but it is for me. And so that's personal to me. It's how I make
Wow.
it personal.
That's awesome, man. Man, I love that. Yeah. So I want to I want to ask you about that unique question, man. Do you want to give us one that you've
So
used maybe in the past,
I mean,
other
yeah,
than the middle name?
well, I can give you a couple.
Yeah.
So the what's your dog's middle name is just a random one, but
Uh-huh.
sometimes they were random. I needed to get out of the insurance mindset, and I was supposed to
Uh-huh.
ask about pets, right? So you're supposed to ask about
Right.
pets, and it's just a fun way of bringing up pets. Oh,
Yeah.
now Joe Bob is the middle name, whatever, doesn't bite anyone, do they, or whatever? Like you can kind of put some humor in it. But for me, I even tried to make the boring underwriting questions less boring. So when I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing good field underwriting, to me that means ask the relevant questions up front instead of having to go hammer them with 17 questions after the fact or give them a quote or set of numbers that's inaccurate and now changes because I didn't know all the information. So if I have to ask something like um, let me think of a good one. If I'm asking about trampolines, it could be something as funny as like, hey, when was the last time you jumped on your trampoline with your kids? That could be a random one, like never. I never jump on a trampoline or whatever. We
Right.
don't have one. I'd never have one of those. Or if I know they have a pool, I would say, "Are you one of those people that when you move in, you have a dream list of a slide and a diving board on your pool?" No one else is asking them that, and it's a way
Yeah.
of me actually doing great underwriting, but actually trying to craft a more interesting conversation. It also, I would also use some digs, very, I think, professionally appropriate digs like,
Uh-huh.
hey, when was the last time you sat down with your current insurance agent and discussed what the appropriate level of bodily injury limits for your auto policy is? it's
Mm-hmm.
obviously the question's almost always I've never done that. And I know
Right.
that's going to be the answer, but I'm trying to slightly dig their existing incumbent relationship
Mm-hmm.
in a really
Mm-hmm.
professional way. And so there are things that I found that even if I used a good one, it would get dry after a while. So I'd go back to the boring and then I'd, rotate into the fun ones. But those are the types of things that I would try to do to spice it up a little bit.
That's awesome.
Or if
I
someone
love that.
says, "Hey, I don't need uninsured motorist," I'd be like, "That's great. You must not be like me because inevitably, sometime next year, some person who's not an insured on my policy is going to hop in my car and run to the grocery store with me or something." And I would just hate it if we got in an accident and they were like really injured. And I would just like throw that in there. And she's like, "Okay, that's pretty
Uh-huh.
disarming." I don't think most people would say that, but I try to just spice it up a little bit because it helped me stay organic and stay engaged with the conversation.
Sales is a connection game, man. You somehow have to make a connection, and you have to somehow, at the end of the day, be like, "Oh, out of those three people, Tim stood out." I mean,
Yeah,
because if they remember you, that's a good thing. As
it
awkward
is.
as that sounds, because they remember you for a reason. So, any last comments, suggestions? I know we're up to time, man. I want to be respectful of your time. Any last things for the producers, agency owners?
I think my only thought would be a word of encouragement. Number one, I very much have an abundance mindset. I think the industry is more than big enough for a lot of fantastic folks to work in it. And so if you're out there and you want to be a true professional and you want to take care of your clients and give good advice and do great work, welcome. Please stick around a while. And on the flip side of that, just know that if you're recently joining the insurance industry, this is like a 40, 50 maybe year hard market, on at least on the personal line side. So it's going to get better. It's going to get more fun. But if you can practice grit and hone your skills now, and stick with it and get to the other side of the storm we're experiencing as in an industry, you have a bright future ahead of you. And so I'd say just be gritty out there, work hard for your clients. And the last thing I would say is, we're all human. We will not be perfect, but it is the best sleeping medication I know of is to get up every day and try to do the right thing every moment of that day. And if
Mm,
that means telling clients hard news that, hey, I can't underwrite you because you have this pit bull, and I know it's just a part pit
mhm,
bull, and you love him and he's a sweetheart, but he's got some pit bull, and my underwriters don't allow that, or whatever.
mhm,
Don't fudge with facts. Try to do diligent work. Yes, I could make the same mistake that anyone else could make and underwrite something incorrectly and it results in a claim or something. But I don't ever want to be presented with those facts and have to say, yeah, I actually knew that and I just didn't want to like admit it on the application or whatever. So I would just
mhm.
encourage you, do the right thing, regardless of who's looking. Don't do things that you'd regret that you wish you could take back later, because you have to live with that. And even if no one finds out and it never comes back to bite you, that's on you, man. I mean, so I would just say, for those of us out there that are trying to do things right, it's a wonderful industry. We welcome you. We embrace you. Please, like I said, stick with us. It's a hard market. I'd love to see you on the other side of it.
Yeah. Well, some insurance people would say that sleeping medication is whiskey, but
No, that's liquor liability
that's
research, is what I hear.
that's a little bit
Yeah.
different. My last question to you, my man. For me, winning the day is extremely important. Every day is a day that I put my head on the pillow and I'm like, okay, was that a good day? And that good day consists of what was four things for me. What was the relationship with my wife? Is that at the right place? What's the relationship with the kids? Is that at the right place? That we spend quality time? What's my personal life, health wise, fitness wise? Like, did I get enough workout and enough things to kind of get me going? And then last but not least, like, did I make one connection with one of my team members? So those are the four things. When I put my head on the pillow, I look at those four things, and if I do check, I can go to bed. Do you have one or two things that you do on a daily basis that you can check off and be like, man, I won the day? That
I wish I were that organized to do that every day. I feel like in this stage of life, I've got 5 kiddos at home and a growing business and a marriage to maintain, and
Mhm.
I'm involved in the community. I would have to say I don't do it as frequently as every day, but when I do take the time to reflect on kind of where I'm at, the key
Mhm.
categories for me are faith, spirituality is really important to me.
Mhm.
family in order, wife, then children. I'm very committed to that. And then actually third priority would be business and community. And I think my team knows that. I want to give them everything I can during the day, but then I want to be able to set that down and go home and be a husband, be a father, be a, if it's faith related, be a member of my church and do that really well. And so I think the hardest thing I've had to realize, and what I try to give myself some grace on, is in this stage of life at least, will always be somewhat behind. What I try to do at the end of the day is be at a place where even if I miss something and didn't complete something that I really wanted to complete for the day, I want to be able to answer the question affirmatively that for the people I met with or the things I was doing, I was all in 100% there for the duration that I was doing them. And so, this conversation, I'm all in. I'm not checking my phone. I'm not, scanning my email. I'm not checking Teams or waiting on a call to come in. I'm here. I'm 100% with Cyrus on this podcast. Super excited to be with all you guests. And then when I check out in a little while and go home, I'm going to be with my family, and I'm not going to be checking my phone a lot. Yeah, if the place is burning down, I'm sure someone will come get me. They'll find me. But at the end of the day, I want to be present. I think we don't often appreciate what a gift presence is in the world. And my daughter said it best that she was a few years ago, she was in kindergarten. She came home one day and she said, "Dad, we're learning about tense." She said, "Yesterday was the past, tomorrow is the future, and today is the gift." Wow. And she exchanged in her mind the word gift and presence, or the present and gift, because to her a gift is a present is a gift. And what I in that moment recognized was, oh wow, that is like super deep philosophically. It's the present is a gift. And so being present in this conversation, being 100% here is a gift I can give to you. It's a gift I can give myself to enjoy the interaction we have here. And then when we move on to the next thing, we should be fully present for that. So I really don't like living in a space where my mind is not associated with what my body's doing. And so that probably, if I had to boil it down to the most simple abstraction, it would be, I always want my mind to be present where my body is. And if there's either a disconnect there, I should be working on solving for the disconnect one way or the other. I need to either get my mind in it or get my body out of it.
Wow. That's profound. Timothy, I appreciate you, man. That was an amazing 35 minutes or whatever it was. I appreciate your time. I know a lot of people got a lot out of this, and I would encourage you to go do what you need to do in this industry, man, and make some stuff happen even in this hard market. So thank you guys for being here. Timothy, I appreciate you, man. This definitely won't be our last time talking, I promise that.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.
And again,
take care.